Hey everybody, RealTaiter here. The other day I was on our lockpicking, and they posted the numbers of the different belts, like how many of each different types of belts there was. And I noticed that there was about 376 green belts that were just on the verge of, or I imagine are on the verge of getting their blue belt. And that's a big milestone belt for a lot of pickers. So I thought I would make this video in order to try to help people maybe overcome that green belt and finally get their blue belt. So first I would recommend the lock of choice to pick for your blue belt. I would recommend picking the American 1100 for a few different reasons. Mostly, like I said before, it's a milestone lock. It's got serrated spools, serrated pins, serrated key pins. Everybody looks to pick this lock. If you asked anybody what their favorite, the majority would probably say their favorite lock in the blue belt category was the American 1100. Yeah, and also a lot of guys are trying to get into the 1100 club, so I know it's a thorn in a lot of your guys' sides. So hopefully with the tips that I give you here, it might help some of you guys be able to pick this thing. Right off the bat, I recognize, everybody's different and everybody has a different picking style. I would never criticize anybody else's technique or tell them how to pick anything or anything like that. I'm only a blue belt myself, and I'm only doing this to share the tips of how I overcame this lock and all the things that I've learned. This is actually the lock that I got my blue belt on. I've picked several 1100s. This happens to be the only one that I still have. I kept it for sentimental reasons, I guess. Yeah, so first thing you're gonna notice is for tensioning this lock. I can't even friggin' speak. For tensioning this lock, the best thing you're gonna want to do is top of the keyway tension. It's a lot better than bottom of the keyway. With these locks, if you use a tension wrench that's a little bit too small, it'll kind of just flop around in the bottom. And if you use one that's too big, it has a tendency to get fetched up and just get stuck in the warding. So top of the keyway is best, and 50,000th is the perfect size to sit right in there, and these pry bars work great for it. Also, though, if you don't have a pry bar that's 50,000th, and the other ones give you an awful lot of flop, you can make your own, and I'm going to actually use a custom one when I open this. And I made it out of a binder clip, just like this, one of the bigger ones. And all I did was I cut off a piece and then filed it down, and it fits perfectly right in there. And the great thing about using this is you're going to use such light tension when you pick this thing that it's going to have your wrench is going to have a tendency to want to just fall away. So with this, I can rest my finger here, and I'm applying all my pressure right here, but this little tiny bit here actually keeps the tension wrench from almost wanting to fall. So it almost like holds it there. For a pick, people give all sorts of suggestions for different sizes and stuff, but just to show you that it's possible with the picks that I know everybody has, and it's actually a pick that I enjoy, I'm going to use this this Southward hook from just a one of my very first starter sets that I had. It was it gives really good feedback, and it's real good strong. It's really nice and strong. I don't really need the strength, but I do like the feedback that it provides. Yeah, like the only thing I would say about the pick choice that you use is everybody kind of has a hook that's their go-to pick. I would recommend just going with that. And another thing that's important is that it does provide good feedback when you do touch the tip of a pin. You actually do, you can really feel it, because you're going to want to make sure especially as you're picking this lock, that when you're lifting those pins, that you're lifting just the pin that you're intending to actually lift. So that's very important. Excuse me. So the next thing that I find makes this this lock tricky is its binding order, and that's mainly the reason why light tension is the best with this lock. If you apply, even with light tension, sometimes it seems like multiple pins are binding simultaneously. So if you apply too much pressure, it's really hard to tell which is the correct pin. And these locks tend to get oversets, basically, as a result of that. And especially with this lock, man, the oversets are very hard to come back from because of the serrated key pins. So when I pick the lock, I like to approach them all the same, these Americans. So if I get any lock, I can kind of do the same thing with it, as long as it's an American. And it seems to be, I haven't picked them all. I've only picked a very few amount of these, but every one that I have picked so far that was an American brand, it's behaved in the same way, and it's had the same, for the most part, traits. So when you're setting the pins, you really want to make sure that you're setting them in the proper order, because with these ones, like I said, it's all about avoiding those oversets. So the best way to avoid an overset is by, when you're lifting the pins, using the absolute minimum lifting pressure possible, and also trying to pick them in the right order. So if I usually try to pick the from the front to the back, and I'll constantly try to every time I get a click, I will go back to the very first and start again. So if I pick one, if 1 gives me nothing, and 2 gives me nothing, and 3 gives me a click, rather than going on to 4 and 5, I'll go right back to 1 and 2, and then I'll work my way up. And if I go back to 1 and 2 and I get nothing, I'll tap 3 again. If I get nothing, then I'll do 4 and 5. And what I find usually ends up happening more often than not is it seems like you avoid touching pins too much with your hook, because that's what causes oversets. I know some guys can open these locks, but I've seen comments on Reddit where guys say, I can get the lock open, but I feel like it was luck kind of that got the lock open. Well, this kind of avoids that, because it limits the amount of time you're actually touching each pin. So I'm going to give a demonstration of how, with everything what I just said, on what it would look like. Try to angle this so we get some better light. Okay, hopefully this is good enough. So put my tension wrench in. Very light tension. I've heard it described a couple ways, the amount of tension you're going to want to use. I've heard it described as the weight of a dime, or the the amount of force it would take to hold, just the minimum amount of force it would take to hold a piece of paper against the wall. And you just have to be very, very careful not to oversay anything. So I'm going to start at the front. I'm going to find pin 1. Got to click. I'm going to go to pin 2, making sure I'm on it. Got to click. Going back to 1. Nothing. 2. Nothing. 3. Got to click. Back to 1. Nothing. 2. Click. 1. Nothing. 2. Nothing. 3. Clicks. 1. Nothing. Click on 2. Nothing on 1, nothing on 2. 3 is getting counter rotation. Click. Nothing on 1. Is that 1? On 1. 2. Click. Excuse me. 3. Click. Oh, we don't want to lose that 1. 3, a little click. 1, 2. I'm going to leave 1 and 2 for a moment, and I'm just going to focus on 3, 4, and 5. Go 3. Nothing. 4. A little click. 5. Not yet. 3, 4. 5 gets a click. 3. Nothing. 4 gets a click. 3. Oh, good false set there. Let's see where we are here. I'm going to go back. Oh, touched 5 and got some rotation. Now, I think now it's in a state where probably just got a spool left. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to find the spool. I'm going to apply a good amount of pressure, and then I'm going to ease up on it. Now I'm going to go in, and I thought I was good at the front of the lock before, so now I'm just going to start at the back. I'm going to go see if I can find and make sure I'm on pin 5 and try it. Oh, it might actually be the one. Yep, we got counter rotation on 5, so I'm just going to go slowly lifting it. Kind of almost, I'd rather almost wiggle it in place rather than, there we go. Boom. You almost want to wiggle it in place rather than force it into place, and then you can get the open on it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this in frame. And I've got it. So yeah, hopefully if you guys try those suggestions, you guys will be able to get into that lock, and that'll help you guys get your blue belts. Oops, all right. Okay, we got what to do with the key. There's the key. Let's get all this stuff out of the way here. All right, so I'm just gonna, so we can see that it's picked, it's open. So I'm just gonna go ahead and close it back up with the key so we don't lose her. And to pick it, you're gonna use a Phillips screwdriver. You're gonna need one of those. There we go. So let me adjust this here. So let me adjust this tripod so I don't have to try so hard here to keep my frame. Okay. Pin fell out. Okay, so there's a little clip on the back you're gonna have to take off. Most of you guys know this, but in case nobody's ever gutted one of these before, I might as well show them how to take it off if they don't have a C-clip removal tool. The fastest way, I think, to take them off where you don't accidentally stab yourself with the screwdriver is to just push it a little bit until you get a gap up there on the top, and then pop that in and pop it right out. Alright, so I always usually just push it away from me, and then that way I can rest it on my middle finger while I hold it with the key, and then usually you can just push it right through. So in slot 1 we have, I'll give you guys a good shot of these afterwards too. I got a 1 serrated key pin, another, that looks like a standard, yeah, a standard key pin, serrated, serrated, and standard. Alrighty, now the front. We'll go from the back. In slot 5 we have a serrated spool. In 4, another serrated spool. Serrated in 3. Another serrated spool in 2. And the chamber 1 seems to be a serrated spool as well. So I'll just give you guys a... There you go, there's a look at what was in it, and there's a look at the key. So yeah, it's a long video, guys. I'm sorry about the length, but I really wanted to make a good video that I really thought would help you guys out, and hopefully if a couple of you guys are able to get your belt from watching this video, then that's all it's about. So yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks guys.